Hello, this is Access Astrology. We are three astrologers who are fascinated by how astrology unfolds in our daily life, in our metaphysics, and in the politics around us. This is Heather Rowan Robinson. I'm speaking to you tonight from Ronan, Montana, and I expect to be joined by Ann Ortley from Florida and Mark Woltz from New York at any moment. But Mercury has already entered its shadow. Mercury turns retrograde from February 26th through March 20th, and it's already past the point to which it will return. So we're starting to see things slow down and get complicated. So use this time carefully. This is a great time to get yourself in place and getting things moving. And uh, apparently, somebody's having trouble getting in on the live stream, but I'm hoping that this works well. Uh, anyway, they um, we're hoping that they find their way here. I'm going to just quickly send this. No, I'm not. I'm going to tell you that in this time, with this crazy time of confusion, we're seeing as Saturn turns into Aries tomorrow on Friday the 13th. Now, that's going to be a tricky time. There's a lot going on astrologically. I want to put up today's chart and we'll talk about that. And here we go at today's chart with Saturn about to go into Pisces, and today is the last day. The layers of confusion, the layers of misunderstanding. We can already feel those questions as Saturn goes into Aries in New York tomorrow and conjuncts Neptune. The confusion about who is in charge is enormous. And we're seeing the problem that that is affecting us, the difficulty in making sure that all is going well. Now, the difficulty with this Saturn going into Aries, we noticed today that the tug of war around Trump and um, the EPA, that he has at the moment decided to end restrictions on um, greenhouse gases, that air pollution does not affect human health. So he's taking huge restrictions off this. He's going to be sued by California and many other people for this effect on greenhouse gases. But what are we going to do about that? So it's going to be an interesting process how that gets straightened out. Watch all this week the confusion about who's in charge, who's responsible, and what we're going to do about it. And we have Saturn also coming to conjunct Neptune. When you see any conjunction, what you're seeing is they talk to each other. Each one is an action verb. Usually it's the faster moving one, Saturn to Neptune, but it's also Neptune to Saturn. So that's the confusion about who's in charge and who's responsible. Notice that the big argument in the Senate hearings with Bondi this week was all about who is responsible and are you going to take responsibility for prosecution? But Saturn, the rules and the forms are also looking at this years of deceit and confusion and asking people to direct it in a good way. And so it's a powerful process. How do we put that and move that forward and find a way of clearing up confusion in all of our lives? So let's see what we can do about that. The um, the at the process we have also, so we have that on Friday the 13th. We have the next step on confusion. Now, I am fond of Friday the 13th. It's often a day that's centered around women's spirits. But we take this now to the eclipse that's coming early next week. We have Valentine's Day over the weekend. Now, the moon's going to be in Capricorn going into Aquarius. And so the process of on Saturday, it's a really good time. It'll be asking us to look at the bigger picture, to see how we can get involved. It's a great time for sending out Valentines to all the people in the class, or for going to a party, or going to a demonstration and showing that you love the world. That, how do you really send the world a Valentine? Make it a meditation from your heart out to the world, rather than be in that position where you are stuck, and be in a position where it's not helping uh, you. It's not a great time for personal love. So it's not that people don't care this weekend. When we look at going back to today and then tomorrow, we see that Venus is in Pisces, Mercury is in Pisces, North Node in Pisces. We're still feeling things deeply, but with that Sun and Mars in Aquarius, looking out, the Moon's going to be in Capricorn, going into Aquarius. It can we can ramp up the ideals on how do we love the world, rather than how do we love one another. It's not that personal. It's just not a time when people look to the heart, and it is a time when we have to, so we can see the big picture, but it's hard to see the people right next to us. If you can, if you want to bring it back next week after the eclipse on Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon and evening, Wednesday, Moon in Pisces is a wonderful time for a romantic dinner. So go join a protest, or go bowling, or have a great, have a party over the weekend. And then next week, consider that one-on-one, and it'll be cheaper than flowers will be too. Celebrate Valentine's Day when Tuesday evening or Wednesday, because it's one of the things we have to do. We have to watch with this Aquarius. We can fall in love with love itself, rather than fall in love with the process, fall in love with individuals. So, to keep it authentic, love, make it a heart meditation, but rein in your own personal expectations. Now, the eclipse, and I have a feeling that there is a technical problem with our StreamYard and my people. I think Anne and Mark might not be coming in today, not because they're not trying, but because there's a technical problem. So I would really like to hear Anne talking about the eclipses, because those are one of her specialties. But what I've noticed with any eclipse is that it acts like astrological acupuncture, because you've got the lineup of the sun, the moon, the earth, all in a row, and the energy goes bang. And it's going to happen around 28 degrees of Aquarius. And this is the eclipse for that moment on the eclipse in Washington. Now, this is not an eclipse that we're going to be seeing here in America. It's visible in the southern hemisphere. It's going to be visible over the oceans. It's not going to be visible in the south of the southern hemisphere. It's not visible here. It's going to be in Washington. It'll be 7:01 a.m., but not exact. You might get a little nip at the corner of it, but you won't really notice it. But that doesn't mean we don't have that intensity of energy of the eclipse. Eclipses can end things that unblock blocked energy. So they can end things that are inappropriate, and they can allow things to unfold in good ways. That's kind of exciting. And it is a interesting place. So what do you want to end? We can aim it for ourselves. If there is something you want to end and begin, if you want to end a way of dealing with the world, because it's in Aquarius, it's about your group dynamics, it's about how what's your philosophy, how do you feel philosophically, how do you feel politically? All of that there might be a real wake-up call for some people this weekend. And it may be for us in ways that we can't imagine. Watch the tendency to get really cynical around it, but notice what do you need to adjust about your relationship to the public, your relationship to the body politic, and what can you do to use this energy to help this country shift it in a good direction? It's near our natal moon um, as a country, but it's not right directly on. So we're going to see that eclipse, and I think it's going to really shake up some of the political interesting parts, but it will be odd, and so we'll see how that goes. In the in this process today, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of charts. We got a really interesting question from uh, Maggie, who asked about stelliums. She was born with a stellium with planets in Leo. Now, stellium is a lineup where you've got three or more planets in one place, and she's got five all in a row here in Leo. And a stellium often is balanced by efforts on the other side. It's called an overloaded house. So those two houses in her chart, natally in the center, are balanced by a process on the other side. So that other side can put pressure in and say, how do you create? And that for her, she needed to balance her relationship to the public, to the group, to the community. That learning to balance all that Leo with everybody else's needs, wants, desires is a really good way of creating balance for herself. That it wouldn't necessarily be so. But there's going to be a stellium of planets coming up all in Aries. The sun is going to be right up here next to Saturn, and this is in April. And we'll see the lineup of Saturn, Neptune, and Mars all in Aries, forming a trine into her chart. When you have a stellium talking to a stellium, it's a talkative time. There's a lot going on for her. It will stimulate everything all at once, and you have to think of it like an auto harp chord. You can't really separate it out. And that's going to talk about an aspect that we've got coming up this summer, which you want to keep your eyes on, which is when I call it the sign of four planets at 4 degrees. It'll be Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter, all at 4 degrees of fire and air signs throughout June and July, mainly July. And they'll be talking to each other, and they'll be talking to any planet you have between 3 and 5 degrees. Now, what are they saying? Well, each one has a different story, but we have to read them like a chorus, read them like a chord rather than as individual aspects, because they will be blending together and hitting us all at the same time. So that's what I would say about a stellium like this. You can see what the stimulants are, what the action verbs are, the aspects. So this April, you can all look at what you have in fire and air signs, particularly around 0 through 9, 10 degrees of fire signs, talking into your chart, and how that communicates for you. So that's what taking a look at everybody's dealing with their um, their aspects. Now, the next chart we got was from Debbie, who was worried about her husband who has been having trouble finding a job, and will that change? And we'll talk about how to look at it from his perspective and her perspective. This is her husband who's having trouble finding a job at the moment. We're going to look at his chart on the larger size. Here is his chart natally. His progressed moon just went into Aquarius, and it's feeling a lot of the recent aspects, and it is now in his 7th house, and his moon in Capricorn. And that can be the moon in Capricorn in the 6th house. How he feels about himself and his work is really important to how he feels about her and relationship. That sometimes if you love his work, he feels loved and respected. If you don't love his work, or he doesn't love his work, it can be hard for him to feel like he can bring what he has to the table. He was born on the full moon. Here's his planets in Cancer with the moon opposite it. For the last few months, there was that stellium of planets in Capricorn opposed all those Cancer planets. And it was, in that direct opposition, there was not much we could, so it was probably a rough time for him to feel out of control and out of work. I add stage. Hi, Anne.
Hi, Heather. I
Wow.
just saw the note from C. Lippens. I'll text it to Mark.
Yep, and thank you. And it was very good of her to help us get on the right thing. I think I sent you started this up in the wrong studio.
Oh, okay. So let me
But we're
send
all
it.
going now.
Let me get Mark.
So
Okay.
So I'm so glad you're here because we've been talking about the transits, and
Right.
I wanted to get your input in on the eclipse coming in. We're just talking about this person's chart and Mark is coming in also.
Is he coming in? You see
Yeah,
him coming in? Oh, there he is. Okay, good. I just said
and thank you, C. C is
Thank you, C.
my
We didn't know who you were, but
fabulous
I saw a StreamYard
web
link, and I'm
person.
like, all right,
Yeah.
it's C. It's Heather's here. Or somebody.
I couldn't get off this long enough to get it to you, so C saved us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
C.
C.
Thanks, C.
And
Thanks, C. We
again,
love you.
well,
We didn't know
yeah,
you, but we love you.
well, Mercury is starting to go into its shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Take
Slowing
double
down.
check your technical things.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this person. I have faith that this person will find a job soon, as they are kind of going back to old connections they've had. As his progressed sun moves into Jupiter, it's getting stronger. But the whole world right now is going through some technical issues. As we saw, we were talking about how the stock markets, going on major swings today because of the bad AI news that we all knew was coming. Like, oh, AI might succeed, which means all these people are going to be out of work. What a surprise. So here's the eclipse. And I did it for Washington, D.C. Tell us what your thoughts are on the eclipse.
Well, it's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
For a couple of reasons. This, planets have been at the last degree since September. So, Virgo eclipse, the Libra eclipse, the new moon, rather. Virgo new moon, Libra new moon, Scorpio new moon, Sag new moon, Capricorn new moon, now Aquarius new moon. This is the eclipse, which is the beginning of the Lunar New Year.
Yeah, of the fire horse.
Year of the
What?
Fire Horse. So we go back 60 years, which was 1966, which was very volatile.
But the sun was also flaring. Yep.
The sun was flaring. And then we go back 60 years before that, 1906, and that was the California earthquake when San Francisco burned down. So we know the Fire Horse years are, I know, Remo, the Fire Horse years are very, he's going to talk now. He's been quiet. Yeah. Now that I'm talking, it's like like what my mother used to do this. You're quiet the whole time. I get on the phone, you start talking to me, and I'm like,
he's a party cat.
He's a party cat. We're having a party. And so this eclipse is big because it starts the year of the Fire Horse. But more importantly, notice that little Uranus down there in the third house. So it's got a square to Uranus, and Uranus is on Algol, the fixed star of beheading, which is never a great star to have a planet on. And so Uranus has been basically parked there. So we've seen a lot of people losing their heads, not necessarily physically, but in some cases physically. But I know. I'm going to pet him, but it may not work. My little noisy boy. And so this square is big. Now, it's also very prominent on the U.S. chart because the moon in Aquarius is our natal moon. We have for the Declaration of Independence, which is the aspirational chart, as opposed to the Constitution, which is another chart. It's more of a compromise. But the aspirational chart, the moon is at 28 Aquarius. And so we're activating that moon in the public opinion. It's in the third house of free speech and communication. You want to come up here? Come on up. Come here. What are you doing? Come here, baby. So I don't know if this is going to help, but we'll try.
It's 1 degree off our moon, supposedly.
1 degree off our moon. And then the Uranus there on the top of the chart. Now it's an eclipse. We're a little wide, so it's not going to be a total eclipse, but it has a very nice energy in terms of activating things and also being at a crossroads because the sun and the Uranus are in a square. In Donald Trump's chart, his ascendant is 28 Leo. So this eclipse takes place on his descendant, the 7th house cusp. So that's his relationship in the public. And they just announced that they're not going to be doing any more presidential polling.
Because the last one was 29 degrees. There was only 29 degrees, 29% of the people approved.
So we're just, they have announced they're going to stop sampling presidential opinion and feelings on things. Like, all right, whatever. But Uranus is angular, and it is hot mess on his top of his chart, right? So because he's a Gemini sun up there, born on an eclipse, and he's a Uranian, Uranian. He's the sun Uranus in Gemini, opposite the full moon in Sag. I really don't torture this cat. I don't know why. It's crazy. But J.D. Vance also has a 29-degree rising in Leo. So this eclipse is also on his descendant. Wow. So the 7th house is the house of departures and the house of changes. But eclipses also mean people leave, but it also means people rise up. So you're the actor on the stage, you're understudying, they break a leg, you go on. So we do know this is pretty volatile in our country's chart, and also in our 3rd house of communication. So it's a very big eclipse. It's, of my opinion, because it hasn't been confirmed medically, but in September, over Labor Day weekend, I believe President Trump had a stroke back then, and he does have stroke energy in his chart. That's how he's out of here. The chart describes how we leave. Now, with modern medicine, we dissolve the clots and everybody can be fine. So we also repeat and close up the story from September, which was the Beijing meeting with Putin and India and North Korea rather, and a couple other people went. Russia went, and that was everybody's, where is he? And so we're going to watch for him and see what's going on with him with this eclipse. It's pretty big, and you watch eclipses, they set the stage. And then the transits come, and when stuff hits 28 Aquarius, like Mars in a couple of weeks, or 28 Taurus and squares it, or 28 Leo and opposes it. Because remember, Mars this year is going all the way to Virgo. No interruptions. He's straight talk. So we're going to watch for stimulates to the eclipse. So like when we had the eclipse in June of 2001, that eclipse, astrologers predicted, hey, problems in August and then September 9th. August was Mercury triggering it. Any planet triggering this degree. It's not just Mars. But Mercury triggered it August 8th. And it was in the presidential daily briefing, Osama bin Laden's going to attack in planes. So Bush heard it on his ranch. And then Mars came to trigger the eclipse, and we had the actual attack. So we're going to watch the planets as they come and hit this degree, because it's very prominent in the United States chart, our 3rd house of the public, and it's very prominent in our leaders, both J.D. Vance and Donald Trump's charts. So it's a big one. It's a big one. So I am, not predicting anybody going to die. We have modern medicine that, prevents things. Ever since Kennedy's assassination, they follow the motorcade with an ambulance right behind it, ready to administer care. And the clot busting stuff. I've had a few friends that have had stroke. Get the clot busting information fast, and the clot dissolves. Unlike Luther Vandross, who they didn't find for a couple days. So the whole key with strokes is fast reaction time. So, and Uranus, sudden, unexpected, squaring the ascendant and the descendant, and squaring Donald's Mars. So we can expect him to be a little volatile too. He may just decide to invade a foreign country. You never know. But the eclipse is very activating of his chart. So I'm just sitting going, deep breaths. Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow we're talking about earlier, that is on Friday the 13th, what a perfect day to have Saturn go into Aries. It'll be going in around 7:20, a little bit before that maybe, but it's at 00. And it's beginning, and it's how many thousands of years has it been since they conjunct at Saturn and Neptune at 0 Aries?
It was 7,000 before Common Era, so it's 9,000 years. Yeah.
9,000 years.
As we were moving from the fertility goddesses to the Bronze Age. Right. So we were leaving behind the Taurus. We don't know how the babies are made. We just know they come out after a little while. into the Bronze Age where my penis made your baby and I have metal and I'm going to protect you or keep you and I'm going to take your land too. We're not going to share anymore like Taurus.
That was the last time Saturn and Neptune conjunct
Were
at
zero.
0 Aries, because that began, and yes, we are bringing it back. There are great efforts to bring back that attitude at 0 Aries. That
the beginning, technically the beginning of the patriarchy. So, and Michael
but
Luton, who
very
is
different now.
just recently circulating, you know, his he did a column for Vanity Fair before he stopped working for them at 2000. He did a lot of predictive stuff, so it was floating around the internet in the last month or so.
I saw that.
And he was the year the millennial of 2 is the millennial of the women, because 0 and 1 were masculine. Well, 0 was whatever, 1 was masculine, and 2 was women. And I was like, oh, interesting. So we're in the 2s for 1,000 years. So we'll see. But, you know, power never gives up without a fight. So, yeah. Mark, you didn't weigh in on the eclipse, though, did you? What do you think about the eclipse?
I'm watching that Uranus also.
Yeah.
Square. And it's very strong. It's been strong for this all through the fall. That planet has had things to say, like Remo, you know.
Yeah, like Remo. Who now is quiet. He just came over and drank some water.
And did you see that little bit from Nick Fuentes, who is a useless little toadstool, who talked about how all women are the political enemy, all women are the problem, all the women need to go to gulags, and we'll leave them there for a while and then decide if they want to take them out. So that was,
spoken like an incel. Spoken like an incel, you know.
Spoken like an incel. And, you know, you see those working as if. And I have such belief in the power of the feminine turnaround, but it's not something to take for granted at the moment, with all these planets shifting from water and earth signs into fire and air, to really, speak to the heart and make sure that the heart is included, the emotional body is included, the wisdom and the wise self is included, whatever gender the body is. And I think that's going to be something to put together. And like,
so this one's, you know, because again, when Saturn and Neptune meet up, they start a new 38-year strike cycle of what's the dream. Carolyn Casey says this. She's born as Saturn Neptune in the 50s in Libra. You know, Neptune lays the dream for the reality train of Saturn to build. So it's very important to really focus your attention in your dreams on what is the structure you're trying to bring in and create. Previous Saturn Neptunes were 88, 89, where the Berlin Wall with Capricorn, Berlin Wall, Capricorns are walls, was there. And then one day it was gone and it dissolved and everybody went, wow, what do we do now? And so EU formed, and at that same time, the USSR broke up into pieces. Some went east, some went west. And we also had Tiananmen Square, where the guy is standing in front of the tanks and then, you know, nothing, you know, just kind of went into the vapor.
We also had the breaking open of the Exxon Valdez that year.
Yes.
And that's oil on water that hit a hard object and broke. So it's interesting that the EPA regulations were just lowered, just thrown out by Trump, just as we're heading into the Saturn-Neptune. That pollution will be a huge issue this year.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Saturn-Neptune in Libra was Putin going into the KGB. And of course, he took over, you know, when the wall fell, it was under, I believe, Gorbachev. But, you know, there were a whole bunch of people. And then, you know, we didn't have 250 years of democracy in Russia. And the time before that, the Saturn-Neptune was in Cancer. And Heather, you mentioned this, you know, no invading winter people in the winter. Not a great idea. But that was the siege of Leningrad. And Putin's mother was in a pile to be burned, and his father saved her. She wasn't dead yet. And the guy said, well, bring her back if she dies. And he's like, I will. But he nursed her back to health. So we have a mythic story for Putin of his mother saving the motherland. You know, his father saved his mother, and they all survived to make him. So he has this kind of iconic mission. So with the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, we're going to watch what goes on with him too, because this is big for him. And for all of us, it's
Mhm.
Saturn doesn't like being in Aries. He's going to be there 2.5 years. And of course, when he was there in 97, we had an economic collapse. We had problems in 88, 89. We had problems in, the Cold War, so, and it also was a lot of independence. So recently, I don't remember the source of it, but it was reputable. The EU, Europe is building their own Google and building their own Microsoft because they don't really want our software anymore. So I don't think it's just the AI stuff.
And I agree. Mark, what was we getting to the point we have to close, but Mark, what was your thought on this eclipse and how people can work with it?
I think work with that Uranus square, but also work with Saturn Neptune because they're a big theme, and they move slowly. They make changes slowly, but they're very strong. Take a moment and close your eyes. Look at your chart with your eyes closed. See where Neptune is, what sign it's in, and what house. See where Saturn is, sign and house. And think of Neptune being like water, and Saturn is addressing that water. And think of an ice sculpture, and Saturn and Neptune are making this sculpture. Neptune has the water, Saturn has the tools to chisel. Take a look at that sculpture in your life. Is it an animal? What animal is it? Does it have a message for you? Take a moment to feel that message. And now open your eyes and go forward.
Cool. And we do appreciate Saturn at the last degree of Pisces making Mark and I get lost in the internet wilderness.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was, and I am sorry that I said that.
It was all good because we confirmed. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll see you later. So I was like, did I do something wrong? I just, Mark's like, I can't get in, and then he's like, I'm in the background. I said, well, we can't see each other because only Heather can see us. And then we got your lovely assistant.
I was in the wrong thing, my lovely, wonderful person.
Oh,
so
good.
I want to say that, Carrie, we will get to you next week. I apologize that we got behind. And
we got
also,
discombobulated. Moon's out of bounds.
And I want everybody also to know that that we are catching up. Someone asked about how do they get their chart here? You can send to starcodes.heartcodes or any one of our email addresses, and they will get it to me, and we're caught up. So we only have one chart for next week. Send them in, and we'll get you in as soon as we can. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Bye, this is Heather from Montana.
And Mark from Florida.
Mark from New York.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, all.